So Microsoft provides us the document, and everything that is here is going to be based on this document here. And we'll be posting the link, but honestly, if you Google HAFNIUM, that's the first thing that's going to come through. So the other thing that we'll do is that these worksheets, we will post to our rules repo, public rules repo, so that if you want to, refer to it after, then that'll be just fine. So let's start at the beginning, which is kind of the low-hanging fruit for us is going to be to look at, if I scroll down a little bit, here we go. So they provide, host IOCs. Obviously, you don't want to stop at the end of those, because a single byte change in a web shell will change the whole hash. But it's likely kind of the first thing that you can get out of the door, and at least give you some some idea if those specific shells are affecting you. So the way that we're going to do this is using the LimaCharlie spot check. So if you don't know, LimaCharlie spot check is a command line tool that will allow you to run very active checks across the whole infrastructure. So if I go LimaCharlie spot check help, so LimaCharlie, pip install LimaCharlie. So you'll see that there's a bunch of different flags that you can use to target specific hosts or not target specific OSs. In our case, we're going to assume that we have kind of this nice tag that will do things for us. So they'll make that command line even easier. And then for this kind of quick example, we're going to use the file hashes. You can see that there's a whole bunch of things that you can search for. So, there's some Yara signatures out there. You could just swap, the file hash or add onto that command line the Yara signature to include, that active check against the boxes. You can do registry keys. You can also do, specific ad hoc commands. So in our case, in our example, I'll simplify a little bit this command line just to kind of visually. So this will check for all of the hashes. I'm going to limit that query to a single one. So let's parse that and see what it is saying. I will also change a tiny little thing. So we're targeting right now our demo org, which does not have the exchange tag in there yet. So I'll just use a different tag that we're using. So this command line is saying, run spot check, only target the endpoints in my organization that have the tag server. And I want to look on these endpoints for hash, a file hash. I want to start looking in the C drive. So, but you should probably target a little bit better. This is just for kind of simplicity of the example. But you could, specify the specific subdirectories either that apply in your organization, that are kind of covered by Exchange or web server. In this case, so C:, the file types that we're interested in. So in this case, we're interested in anything.aspx. So we're only saying, we don't want to go and hash the whole hard drive for no reason. So in this case, we're going to target that. Apologies for the noise. And we're going to say 8 levels of depth that we're interested in. So we're saying, C: all the way 8 directories, which should pretty much cover everything. And here is the hash that I'm interested in. The last thing I'm going to do is I will add a -n2. So by default, the spot check will go 1 sensor at a time. In this case, we don't have all the time in the world. Actually, let's do 3. So here we're saying, do the check on 3 sensors at a time. So the idea is that the spot check tool is there to save you time. You could go manually and do this thing on every one of the boxes and look at the data coming back. The spot check is going to automate surveying all the endpoints that match what you're targeting. It will automate waiting for those endpoints to come online if they are not, which is really useful. Sometimes, you have like a server somewhere and it's off during part of the day, or workstation. So the spot check will wait for those to come online. And it will kind of do the very basic analysis of, is this hash found in this specific directory or subdirectories. So let's just run it. So what you will see is, the spot check doesn't emit a whole lot. The whole point of it was name resolution. I had a DNS issue. That's weird. So here we go. So it's running anyway. I'm not sure exactly what happened. So the idea is, the spot check limits the output so that you could, output it to a file and kind of streamlines looking at its output to determine if something happens. So you can see the angle bracket here is saying I'm starting to look at this sensor. In this case, you can see it's actually a CentOS box that happened to have the tag. Obviously, looking in C: is not going to match anything. So the dot is just to indicate the status went to done. So we are done looking for whatever we were looking on that box. Similarly here, we've got the Windows 2012 box, just finished looking at its drive, and probably within a minute or two, I think the 2016 box is also going to come back. If you had a hit, you would get, the first character would be a exclamation mark with the details around that hit on that single line. So it's line separated. Again, trying to kind of be no nonsense for incident response. So you don't have to start doing string parsing and reading. You can kind of automate the output. So as this keeps going, this would give us a good idea of whether any of the hashes is on, any of those workstations. So the next thing that we can do is, we can run the actual